So, President Trump addressed the graduating class at West Point, the elite military academy, today in a rambling hour long speech, which it's kind of ironic that he would even show up there, considering that Donnie Draft Dodger used a phony doctor's note from a friend of his daddy about bone spurs to get out of the Vietnam War, and who, by the way, couldn't even serve in the military nowadays because he's a convicted felon. They frown on that because the military has high standards, even though Republicans clearly do not. But still, the commander in chief went off script several times and was often met with silence while he aired personal grievances and ranted about everything from trophy wives to Al Capone. And I'll break it all down right here after you help me piss off MAGA by hitting the subscribe button. And please don't dodge that request, unless you have a note from a foot doctor. Alrighty then. So, this speech from Don Cheeto was filled with projection, as always. And just a reminder, what is projection?
Projection is a psychological defense mechanism where you have feelings and emotions that are unacceptable to you, and instead of owning it, you attribute it to someone else.
Yeah, exactly. So, things that you've done or feel insecure about, you put onto others and take no ownership of, which the dictator in chief does all the time, including today in the speech. So let's start off with one of his go-to projections, blaming President Biden.
So we had years and years of recruiting shortfalls, and just last year was the worst of all, the last year of the Biden administration. We couldn't get anybody to join our military.
Classic Trump right there. He can't stand on his own 2 feet, I assume because of those bone spurs. So he tries to take credit for something that he couldn't have possibly done since January 20th. In fact, military records show that enlistment has been recovering from the COVID slump since long before Inauguration Day, which actual military experts attribute to the recruitment reforms that started under who? President Biden. Not to mention the fact that it takes 4 years to graduate from West Point. So Trump is talking to a graduating class of cadets who all enlisted while Biden was in office. But why let facts stop a good tirade? G.I. Schmo then started doing his weave technique, also known as cognitive decline, by getting into a story about a wealthy real estate developer friend of his with anecdotes like this that are not relatable to a working class military crowd on any level whatsoever.
He sold his little boat and he got a big yacht. He had one of the biggest yachts anywhere in the world. He moved for a time to Monte Carlo and he led the good life. And time went by and he got bored.
Yeah, who in that crowd couldn't relate to that story? But here's the best part of that anecdote about his rich buddy that has so much projecting going on. It should have started with the trailer for the latest Marvel movie.
He ended up getting a divorce, found a new wife. Could you say a trophy wife? I guess we can say a trophy wife. It didn't work out too well. But that doesn't work out too well, I must tell you. A lot of trophy wives, doesn't work out. But it made him happy for a little while, at least.
Do you get the impression that Trump, who is on his third wife, is speaking from experience there? Can we say trophy wife? Yes, we can all say it and we can see it. And I love that he says, I must tell you, a lot of trophy wives don't work out. Yeah, especially when you cheat on them, which then leads to them embarrassing you by not wanting to hold your hand or, I don't know, even show up at the White House. Just a reminder, Melania has spent less than 14 days total in D.C. since the inauguration. And I almost want to give Trump a hug when he says, but it made him happy for a little while. Poor Donnie. Maybe next time he'll pick love over looks. Now, I'm not saying that Melania is a gold digger, but she ain't messing with no broke election rigger.
Damn!
Trump then continued with his woe is me speech to the men and women who are about to risk their lives based on his whims by doing some projecting and comparing himself to one of America's most notorious criminals.
And I say I was investigated more than the great late Alphonse Capone. I went through more investigations than Alphonse Capone, and now I'm talking to you as president. Can you believe this?
No, I cannot believe it. But here we are. And did you notice that he called Capone the great late Alphonse Capone? First of all, it's late great, not great late. And you usually call someone that if they actually deserve to be praised, which we don't generally do with mob boss murderers. But the problem is, Trump admires Al Capone and has always run his businesses like a mob boss.
Mr. Trump called me a rat for choosing to tell the truth, much like a mobster would do.
And in one final act of projecting, King Trump played a card that, yeah, other presidents have done too, but never with the glee that Trump did.
And I hereby pardon all cadets on restriction for minor conduct offenses effective immediately, so you're all okay.
Yeah, you get a pardon. You get a pardon. Wouldn't it be nice if Trump, acknowledged the troops that didn't need a pardon for anything? But that will never happen, because the one thing President Bone Spurs can't dodge is a guilty conscience. I want you to like this thing, comment below, and let me know your thoughts on all of this. I'm Steve Harness from The Vocal Minority with Nick and Steve Political Podcast, which is available everywhere, including right here on YouTube. And we're happy to be part of this progressive, truth-seeking team right here at Really American Media.